Something is happening within the Philadelphia Eagles organization that most fans haven't yet stopped to analyze with the depth it deserves. There's a silent, almost discreet movement that's redesigning the foundations of this defense. And when you put all the dots together, you'll understand that what seems like just another off-season trade is actually a clear sign that the Eagles are operating at a different level of planning. Pay attention, because what you're about to hear changes how you see this team going forward. If you're one of those who follows the Eagles closely, you know that the 2025 season left a bitter taste in our mouths. A team with so much talent, with a defense that in 2024 was one of the most feared forces in the entire NFL, simply stopped working the way we expected. The drop in defensive production was evident, painful, and impossible to ignore. And that's exactly why what's happening now in the offseason needs to be taken very seriously. The Eagles aren't just patching up the team, they're making surgical decisions, and every move matters. And since you've made it this far, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, because the analysis we bring here about the Eagles isn't of this level anywhere else. Now let's get down to business. The news that came out in the last few days was this: the Philadelphia Eagles closed a trade with the Atlanta Falcons. Sidney Brown, a safety who was selected in the third round of the 2023 draft, was sent to Georgia in exchange for 2 draft picks, a 4th round and a 6th round pick. The Falcons get Brown, and the Eagles get picks number 114 and 197, sending picks number 122 and 215 in return. Read like that, it seems like a simple trade, almost bureaucratic. But when you understand the context behind it, you start to feel the real weight of this decision. Sidney Brown arrived at the Eagles as a promising player, 3rd-round pick, young, with interesting physical characteristics for the position. But his career in Philadelphia was marked by a cruel misfortune right from the start. In his rookie year, he played 6 games as a starter and then suffered an ACL tear. This type of injury, as every fan knows, isn't just physical. It throws you off your head, throws you off rhythm, and puts you in a battle that goes far beyond the training field. When Vic Fangio took over defensive coordination, it became clear that his system didn't have room for Brown as a starter. In 2024, he didn't start a single game. Last season, only 3. And the PFF numbers tell a stark story. A 58.1 rating in coverage in 122 snaps of work in that role. That's not a lack of effort. That's a mismatch in system, timing, and development, and the Eagles recognize that. This is where things get really interesting, because this trade isn't about Sidney Brown. It never was. This trade is about what the Eagles see as a defensive priority for 2026 and what they're willing to do to build the secondary they need. Think about it. The 2025 season left the Eagles in 8th place in passing yards allowed per game and 14th in coverage, according to PFF ratings. And the most troubling detail? Not a single safety on the roster managed to even reach a 60 rating in coverage. Not one. For a defense that was once considered elite, that's a red alarm flashing non-stop. The Eagles know this, and their moves show that they are heeding that alarm. While Sidney Brown heads to Atlanta, where he'll likely fight for the nickelback position with everything he has after D. Alford's departure, Philadelphia is starting to assemble a new puzzle in its secondary, and the pieces being put on the table are more interesting than they seem at first glance. Reek Woolen has arrived, and that name needs to be said with the respect it deserves. A cornerback who had a meteoric rise with the Seattle Seahawks, went through some turbulence, but still carries the potential of a player who can be dominant when fitted into the right system. The Eagles believe that this system can be theirs.
Marcus Epps is back. You think about the symbolism of that. A player who wore green and silver from 2019 to 2022, left, went his own way, came back in 2025, and now returns again. Epps knows the culture at that locker room. You know the expectations of Philadelphia. And in a position like safety, where communication and understanding of the defensive system make all the difference, having a player with that track record in the house is not a detail, it's the foundation. JT Gray arrives as that player you might not notice in the first few weeks, but you'll feel when he's not there. All pro on special teams. He played for the Ravens, Broncos, and Buccaneers in the 2025 season. He's the kind of piece that serious organizations value because special teams decide games, always have and always will. And then you have Drew Mukaba, second round of the 2025 draft, the only guaranteed starter among the new names at the position. And here's one of the most important points in this whole equation. The Eagles have invested significant draft capital in a young player to be the anchor at that position. That says a lot about the organization's philosophy. They're not looking for a short-term solution. They want to build something solid. And there's also the flexibility that few teams would have in this situation. Michael Carter II, acquired mid-season from the Jets, can be repositioned for safety if needed. Cooper DeJean, one of the most exciting talents to join the roster in recent years, can also be moved to cover the position in certain packages. That's smart depth. It's versatility built with intention. But let's be honest now, the way a true fan needs to be honest. There's still something missing. With the departure of Reed Blankenship, who signed with the Houston Texans, the roster became too lean at that position to enter a season with real title ambitions. The second wave of free agency is still open, the draft is coming, and the Eagles have the resources and intelligence to keep acting. What this Sidney Brown trade makes clear is that the franchise isn't attached to names. It's not attached to past draft picks that didn't deliver the expected return. They're looking ahead with a clarity that honestly is both relieving and exciting at the same time. When an organization can identify that a player doesn't fit, publicly acknowledge that through a trade, and at the same time already have alternatives in motion, that's high-level management. And you can't talk about this defense without remembering what it was in 2024, a machine, a force that intimidated any offense in the league. The Eagles reached the Super Bowl with the confidence of a unit that knew exactly what it was doing. Sagan's performance was the secondary. It was the pressure. It was the synchronization between the lines. And when that fell apart in 2025, the impact was felt throughout the team's structure. Recovering that level isn't simple. It's not a matter of signing one or two players and hoping for magic. It's a process of cultural, technical, and strategic rebuilding. And every little decision the organization makes now, including that Sidney Brown trade, is a brick in that construction. The Eagles' defense has talented names. It has young players with real potential. You have veterans who know what it means to win in this league. And you have leadership that clearly understood the lesson of 2025 and doesn't intend to repeat the same mistakes. I want you to sit with that for a second, because what's at stake here isn't just one season. The Eagles are building to dominate. And when you connect the dots, when you see every move this offseason with the eyes of someone who understands what this team means, you start to feel that 2026 could be something different, something bigger. Philadelphia hasn't forgotten what it's like to win. It hasn't forgotten what it's like to be feared. And this secondary that's being assembled now, piece by piece, pick by pick, is the heart of what could be a devastating defense again. Now I want to know what you think. Was that Sidney Brown trade the right decision? Are the Eagles on track to regain the defensive ferocity of 2024? Comment below with everything you have in mind, because this is your home. This is your space as a true fan. And if you haven't liked this video yet, do it now. Not because of the algorithm. Do it because you know that the content here is different. It's in-depth. It's made by people who live and breathe Eagles just like you. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because every move this offseason will be analyzed here with the intensity that this franchise deserves. Fly, Eagles, fly, always.